There's back to another video. Today we are going to be doing a little, I don't know how to describe this. Respect. Yes. That wasn't even planned. I didn't want to do that for the intro, but that's the intro now. Okay, great.
Down, yeah. I've been feeling so down, yeah. Can you tell me why? Can you tell me why I'm down, yeah? No friends of mine around, yeah. Now I'm thinking
There's back to their video. Today we're gonna be doing a video where we know. Yes, we know. How do I describe this? I don't know how to describe this. Where we talk about a new video type I'm doing. Yeah. Okay, give me it. I want yes. I do. It was a smoothie from Tropical Smoothie Cafe, by the way. Okay, I think I know what I'm gonna do. So, if you guys know, I used to do, like, I'll put them up on the screen. I did my Psychopaths review, my Akame ga Kill review, and my another review. And those things, I love them. They're, like, my favorite type of video to film, but besides that and story times, they're, like, my favorite things to do. But they take up so much time. And it's time that I don't have, because I'm now a 9th grader. Well, actually, school starts tomorrow, so yeah. Exciting. But yeah, as I said, those took too much time, and I don't think TikTok is a thing anymore. I genuinely don't know. It didn't even work for me. You guys know when I was filming my Psychopaths review, like, TikTok literally didn't work. It was breaking, like, every 5 seconds, so I ended up just, you know, using FunImate. And, like, that worked better, but I don't want to use it, you know? So yeah, we're not going to be doing that type of review anymore. But as I said, I love doing reviews of anime. So what I'm going to start doing is not actually watching the anime with you. I'm going to, like, sit down, watch it, take some notes, you know, write down some important stuff, how I felt. There's a girl on YouTube, I think, who does, like, the same thing. If I can remember her channel, I'll put it up. If not, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I want to do it like that, where I watch it, I take notes, I, you know, think about it, think about my emotions, whatever, and then talk about it after I finish it with you guys. So I will be doing a lot more animes like that instead of ones I just want to, like, sit down and not actually, you know, experience. So it'll be better. There'll be a lot more, but it'll only be one video, so it'll be shorter. But yes, that's what I'm going to be doing. So considering the fact that this video is only 5 minutes long, I thought with this new content style thing, we might as well just go ahead and do one. So I'm going to be watching No Game No Life tomorrow and tonight, and I will take some notes and talk about it with you guys. I'm actually watching Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid right now, so I have 3 episodes left. I have to finish that. And then I'm gonna start When They Cry too, so yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna watch When They Cry, the end of Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, and then I'm going to start No Game No Life. My voice just died there for a second, but it's cool. So yeah, next time you see me, we will be after I finish No Game No Life, so. I watched it. Okay, I watched No Game No Life. It's 2 days later, and I took a lot of notes. Okay, so this is going to be very hard to do, I have realized as I've been taking notes. It's gonna be long, so this video is probably like 40 minutes. I'm just a guess though. It might be longer, might be shorter, I don't know. But I'm gonna try not to ramble, because I do have, like, all the episodes laid out and stuff that happens in the episodes, like, on an email that I sent to myself. But I don't want it to be a ramble, but it might be a ramble, so we might have that. But I'm gonna try and just list things out. Otherwise, yeah, we'll begin. It'll be great. So I feel like before we even get into the watching of No Game No Life, we should read the description from my anime list. Oh, ignore the plastic straws. I don't use straws. I should take this out, shouldn't I? No Game No Life follows Sora and Shiro. They're neats. And if you don't know what a neat is, look up what a neat is. It's just someone who doesn't really function, and doesn't want to function. They're an online gamer duo under the username blank. Now, my first reaction to this username was like, okay, that's like, I kind of laughed. I was like, oh, that's an interesting name there, you know, so original. Blank. Like, it didn't seem too special to me, but like the farther I went, I was like, okay, blank is like kind of cool. So they view the world as like a piece of shit, you know, like people, how do I describe this? I don't know, they don't fit in, you know, just, do you see what I'm getting at, you know? But this all starts when they get a strange email requesting them to play a chess game. After the chess game, their world basically changes and they are transported into a fantasy realm. Now, okay, is it okay if I call the guy Tit? Because as soon as I met him, I did call him Tit. I know his name is Tet, but I might call him Tit. So they meet Tit or Tet, the god of games of this little realm. So in this realm, all forms of conflict to like, you know, little like arguments between like neighbors or like wars are settled by games. And basically there's like a wager in place. So like if you are going to challenge someone to a game, you have to have something of equal value for what you're offering. Like, you know, if you're offering a life, they have to offer like a life. If they're offering like something like tiny, you have to offer something tiny. You get it? So they set out on this goal that they want to unite the 16 races and challenge Tit or Tet, and then basically become the gods of the world. I know. Sorry, that's my cup. I know. Great, right? Like, I was really intrigued, though, when I first read this. I was like, wait. Like, everything is settled by games? Like, there's no, like, verbal conflict or, like, physical, like, you know? Like, whoa. Like, I could never. I scream so often. So it's like... So let's start out by talking about the first episode. Right when you start watching episode 1, it starts off with a battle scene. This battle is between some very, very unimportant characters, I'm so sorry, and our little duo, Blank. So after winning this little tiny battle, people are going around talking like, you know, it's only like 4 characters or like 5, I don't remember how many people are, like how many accounts were in Blank. And they're defeating like hundreds of people, like they must be cheaters. But then we pan into the room of Sora and Shiro. It's just this whole big gaming setup, and they're sitting there. Sora has like 4 different game accounts, you know, up, and Shiro's just sitting there. So, you know, you can obviously tell that they're lazy at first. Like, they really don't look like the type to like go out and just like go grab the groceries. They look like, you know, that was a really weird example. But after a little conversation between Sora and Shiro, they get the email for the chess game. Now, this... Okay, have you guys seen March Comes Like a Lion? Because I talk about this anime a lot. Well, not a lot. To myself, I talk about it a lot. But March Comes Like a Lion is a shogi anime. Shogi is like chess. I would suggest watching it, actually. First season's kind of shit. Second season's good, though. Sorry, I'm like kind of making you watch... trying to make you watch March Comes Like a Lion now. But I don't know why, I just kept like making the same joke throughout this, that they had so many like March Comes Like a Lion moments. So yeah, we had a March Comes Like a Lion moment because they played chess, you know, like computer chess against whoever. I'm assuming Tit, but... And after the chess game, they are transported into the fantasy world, and this is like really where we get more into, not an introduction to where like the actual anime begins. So, Tet, or I'm gonna call him Tet. I feel weird calling him Tet. He gives us a little narration. He has a nice voice. I watched the English dub, by the way, because it was on Netflix, and it was just there, my hair. And Tet has a very nice voice in that. Kind of annoying, kind of sounds like a child, but I live for it. Like, it fits the character, you know? So Tet basically tells us that there are 10 pledges, or like rules in this world that everyone has to go by. Like, there's no killing, there's no thieving, there's no whatever, and there's like 10 things when you're playing the game that you have to like abide by. I'm not going to get into all 10 things, you know, it's just average rules. I know the 10th one is like, have fun, you know? It's like, you know, one of those average rules, like, you know, have fun, you know, don't hurt anyone, play the game, it's enjoyable. But yeah, you can probably just look up the 10 pledges if you want, or I'll put it up if I can find it. Well, my hair, actually, though. Like, stop. So we kind of skip a little bit. They had a battle, but we, like, well, a game thing that they did, a bet, whatever, that we didn't really get to see, but you could, like, obviously tell, like, the siblings are good at this game. Like, Sora and Shiro are good, you know? Like, they're really living up to the name Blank, like, for their Blank standards. And basically, the duo, I'm gonna call them the duo, the siblings, you know, Sora and Shiro, that multiple names that I have, go into like this little bar type area where we meet some other important characters. So we learn that actually the king of this country that we're in right now is dead. I shouldn't have said that like that. And like his final wish to like whoever would become like the new king or queen was that they had to do like a gambling tournament thing. So the gambling tournament that is happening in front of us is between this girl Kurumi, I think that's how you say her name. I'm probably saying a few of these wrong, by the way. And the princess, is she a princess? I don't know. Steph. Now her real name is Stephanie, but she's mostly called Steph throughout the anime, so I will be calling her Steph. So they end up talking to this lady that's close by, and they challenge her to a game, you know? So we get to see our first game. They win. Okay, spoiler alert. They win like every single, there's not a single game that they lose. I'm not kidding. That's kind of one complaint that I have. I wish we could have like some character development where like they lose a game, you know? And then like, you know, they rise above that. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, but they don't lose a single game. So, and they're smart. Like, they're to the point where it's like almost could be considered cheating, but cheating is not allowed here. So it's like not cheating, but they're winning, and they like have so much strategy put into it that it's like, oh my god, you look like you're cheating. I just looked at one of my notes and it says, they go back into the gambling room where some ReZero like royal selection is happening. I love ReZero. I have to say that, like ReZero, I love ReZero. But you know I already talked about the royal selection, so we won't really get into that more. And the first episode, yes, this is still the first episode, basically ends off by them saying they don't really want to leave this world. You know, a lot of people in isekai games type animes will be like, oh, like I don't want to stay in the fantasy world, like I want to leave. But you'll also notice that a lot of them too are like, well, this is better than the real world, and that's their situation. Now on to episode 2. So episode 2 starts out by them being in this like hotel room that they booked. You know, in the first episode they kind of like convinced this guy who in the bar who was like running the place, like, hey, can we have a room, you know, for 4 nights and I got money, if they could stay there. So they're staying in this room, so that's like the setting, you know? And our girl Steph comes into the room. So after a little bit of talking, they challenge Steph to a game of rock, paper, scissors. And he does the worst possible thing. He says, I'm only gonna play paper. Now, if that isn't a mindfuck, I don't know what is. I hate when people say that. They're like, oh, I'll only play rock, like I'll only play scissors, I'll only play paper. Like, thanks for that. I'm gonna like doubt that. So this big diagram shows of how she's like trying to figure out what to play. She ends up losing. It's fine. It's a mindfuck. I get it. It's fine. And he says that in return, he wants her to basically be his lover. This anime does have some inappropriate themes, so I would like watch out for that, you know? I don't like that about fantasy animes, so like, you know, this one isn't like my favorite. But I put up with it because the storyline and like the game concept is kind of cool. So Sora, as you know, is very smart. We could tell from like the first episode, like he knows what he's doing. So you would think like, you know, he's thought out this whole lover plan and he thinks he's thought it out, but then like Shiro's like, but like, what? Sora, what? He really obviously didn't. He kind of wanted like all her things, all her, you know, she's a princess, you know? But you also have to consider the fact that the gambling tournament is happening, so she might not be the princess. So, he didn't really think it through as well as he thought. And honestly, like, if he wanted money, he could have just asked her for money, but now he's got a lover, so. A recurring theme that will be happening is Steph having a mental breakdown. Happens a lot. She bangs her head on walls a lot. It's great, you know? So now that they are friends with Steph, they can stay in the castle, you know, for the time being until royal selection stuff happens. So yeah, we went from being in a hotel room to now rooming in the castle. We're gonna just say this really quick. Boobs are seen. Don't like fantasy anime. So now we learned a little bit more about the world. There are 16 races in this world. That is important, by the way, like the 16. And the one that Steph and the kingdom that we are in is called humanity. Not sure if I'm saying that right. Imagine humanity, but not human. So humanity, like, I think that's how you say that. The 16 races are ranked by like magical power to no magical power. Humanity is the 16th. With no magical power. So as you can see, we picked the perfect place to like spawn in, you know? This is Minecraft now. So then Steph kind of has a moment and she's like, wait, you guys could save Elkia. That's what it's called, by the way, like the kingdom, it's the kingdom of Elkia. So she's like, you guys could save Elkia. But since the siblings really, really hated life on Earth, they don't really have faith in Elkia either. And now a character from the first episode returns, Kurumi. And she actually won. So she is now basically the queen, you know, like, but she has not had her coronation yet, so she is not the queen, but she is winning, you know. And Sora and Shiro challenge her to a game. And now at the end of the episode, Sora makes a comment. He says, I'd like to try being king. And then the second episode is over. So let's continue to the third. So now into the third episode. It begins with our little group crashing the coronation of Kurumi. And they do this by challenging her to a game. Also exposing her because she had been getting help from the elves. There's an elf race, elf something, you already, like, you know. So Kurumi does have this thing for like most of the anime where she does think that they are getting help from another race, you know, as Kurumi was getting help from the elves. She's like, well, they're only like humanity, like they're not that strong, like we're stronger than them. I'm getting help from the elves. If they're beating me, they have to be getting help from another race. So she thinks that for most of the anime, when in reality, not true. Back to this though. So since she thinks that they're getting help from another race, she ends up telling them like all her plans because she's like, well, whatever, like, you know, and that she's getting help from the elves. So the game they pick, another March comes in like a lion moment, is chess. But, you know, it's not normal chess, because why would it be normal chess? The pieces have a mind of their own. So they might not follow orders, they may, you know, they're kind of like, they think of themselves as human. I feel like that's the best way to describe it. A thing you learned about Shiro from the first episode is that she's very, very good at chess. So she kind of starts off the chess game. But she kind of gets stuck because the pieces won't actually listen to her at one point. Like, they won't, you know, they won't put themselves into danger. Like, you know, when you're playing a chess game, you know, the pieces can't tell you, like, no, I'm not gonna let you sacrifice me. Like, that's not how chess works. But in this chess game, like, they won't move. Sora actually comes in and gets out of the situation by being a freaking flirt. Sora, he's cute, I'll admit. But then Shiro kind of rejoins and the siblings work together and the episode ends. So now episode 4. My camera almost fell over too, I'm sorry about that. So Sora, being the kingly type that he wants to be, convinces the pieces to revolt. And a theme for this episode is when he says he would like to win without fighting. Now, this gets talked about a lot in like this episode and maybe the next one. So it is very important, so I thought I should mention it. Now, when Sora says this, it triggers a memory for Steph about her grandpa. As you know, her grandpa was the king. Did I said that, right? And he actually wished for the same thing, that people would win without fighting. So Kurumi, at this point, kind of has a mental breakdown because she didn't think she would lose, and now she's losing to someone who's winning without fighting. And she tries to do like one last like big move to, you know, win, and it doesn't work, you know, she still ends up losing. So now Kurumi is not the princess, the queen, the king, whatever. Blank is the princess, the queen, the king, whatever. But Blank considers themselves one person, you know, like they don't say like, that's a Shinra. This is Fire Force. They don't consider themselves like Sora and Shiro, like, you know, it's one person, it's Blank. That was my knuckles, like it went like this. But apparently you couldn't really have Blank, like the two people be the king. Weird. So they challenge each other to a game. Now, God, as you know, the siblings are very, very smart, very, very good at strategizing, whatever, and they have not lost like a single game. So after like thousands of tries, they finally give up. Or not like give up, but they kind of like have like a compromise where they decide to become representatives together. So yes, now we have basically our new king, but they're representatives. So, you know, Blank is the king at this point. So they work on rebuilding the kingdom a little bit because, as you know, it was kind of in shambles. A lot was wrong and bad. And then they give their first official speech as king. And at the end of this, you know, very good speech, I thought it was pretty good. They declare war against the world. Now, before this episode ends, the screen gets all like galaxy-like. It super cool, not gonna lie. and our boy Tet shows up. So as I mentioned before, the 16 and the 16 races was very important, and this because apparently there's 16 spots on the chessboard. I did not know that. And if they can get all 16 races, they can challenge God, aka Tet. The episode ends by Sora saying that he wants to conquer the world and defeat Tet. So that's basically our new goal now: defeat the world and conquer Tet. Yes, what? Episode 5. Sorry, I put my hair up and my freaking phone moved again, but it's fine. We're fine. So episode 5 begins with actually Steph giving us a narration this time. So she doesn't really think that Sora and Shiro are doing their jobs, aka the fact that they're neats, and, you know, they're kind of the king and queen, or, like, kings. You know, like, they're ruling a country now, but they're neats. So it's like... And they kind of just put everything on Steph. They're like, okay, Steph do this, Steph do that, you know, go do whatever, go make negotiations, go, you know, and they just sit around and play games. So Steph comes in and she's like, I'm determined to stop this. So she challenges Sora to a game. For the first of many games of the day, they play blackjack. So Steph had some own little cheating methods of her own that she wanted to try, and she's like, oh, I'm gonna beat these guys, like, they don't even know what's, like, coming for them. She lost. To put it, like, lightly, she lost. We actually have a moment where we learn that Steph isn't a complete idiot, because up until this time, she was acting stupid. You know, she's like that type of character. But she actually did have a plan, and she was, like, doing something with the nobles, and it was good, but then Sora and Shiro kind of ruined it. But it's fine, you know, it's fine. She was smart, and that's all that matters. It's kind of embarrassing mentioning this, but Steph's punishment for the game was that she had to act like a dog for the thing. We're gonna pretend like that doesn't happen though, so we're not gonna get too into it, but the whole entire episode she's kind of a dog. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that too much. But from this, they actually, that was important apparently, they actually learn about a different race called the War Beasts. And Sora is very intrigued, you know, just imagine, I don't want to get too into it once again, and he wants to try to conquer them. But as I said, the first of many games of the day happened, and, you know, we only had one so far, so more games commence. So, but, you know, she loses again. And, she challenges them again and again and again and again and again and again and again, and you get the gist, you know? But then Sora ends up giving her some advice. Like, you know, if you want to win, you have to, like, pay close attention and, like, learn things about your opponents. Like, you win by knowing. And then, you know, he correlates this to how they're going to win against the War Beasts. Sorry, my phone lost storage there. I completely forgot what I was talking about. Oh, so I thought this episode was, like, really important. Because, like, it felt like they were trusting each other more, and it felt like there was more, like, progress, like, in their relationship, like, Steph and all them, and, like, you know, it didn't feel like they just met, and, like, in the beginning, where I felt like Sora and Shiro didn't really trust Steph that much. Sorry. The actual end of the episode, though, is when they decide they're going to go see a Flugel. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but it's another new type of race, you know, whatever. And they want to convince this Flugel to help them. Okay, episode 6, we are halfway through. So this episode starts off by meeting our Flugel. Her name is what? So this episode starts off with us meeting our Flugel, named Jabril. I'm not saying that right. I can confirm. I don't know how to say her name. But for the sake of giving her a name, we will call her Jabril. So they basically say that they want her library. She has a library. I don't know if I mentioned that. Flugels like knowledge and stuff, apparently. And they want her knowledge. So they end up with, for their bet, being she will trade the library and herself. That sounds really bad, I know. And their bet is 40,000 books. He had, like, a Kindle. You know what, you know, like, he had, like, online books. And an appropriate moment happens, you know, I'm not gonna get into that. We don't really get into those. I just feel like saying that something does happen there, so watch out. And they end up playing Word Chain. I didn't actually know what Word Chain... I didn't know that's what you called Word Chain. I played this, like, twice as a kid. But Word Chain is, like, you know, where you say something in the last letter. You know, you have to continue it. So if you said, like, cat, you'd have to, like, continue with something with a T. You know what I'm saying? But this one is materialization. That's not how you say that word. Version. So if you say something, it'll actually happen. Like, it'll come into the room with them. Very inappropriate game of Word Chain, may I add, in the beginning. Like, ooh, it was bad in the beginning. But then, you know, he has this whole plan. He kind of, like, destroys the world. Like, he brings in, like, the mantle, the core. Like, bro, okay. And then he does a bunch of science-y things, and makes it so she can't really answer, you know, takes the oxygen and stuff like that. And then the episode ends, she calls him master. We're not gonna get into that. But yeah, episode 6 was great. Loved it. What happened in episode 7? I lost all my notes. Just had a panic attack. My notes wouldn't come up. Episode 7! So the episode starts with Jabril trying to sell us shampoo. You know, apparently they really, like, the Flugels really like to, like, take care of themselves. And another reoccurring theme that happens is we have, like, a public bath area, so a lot of stuff does happen there, so, you know, this was all happening in, like, the public bath area. So we go ahead and see Kurumi, you know, the girl who just had a mental breakdown when we, beat her. And, her friend, you know, the cheating elf. And they kind of just go over all the info and, like, knowledge that they know. So we talk a little bit more about the So one thing they end up talking about is the war beasts. Apparently the war beasts have this power where they can, like, read minds. Great, I know. And also when they challenge you to a game, they make it so after the game, you will forget everything that happened. And, like, you know, so you can't have a strategy, like, if you lose, you know, you'll forget everything that happened. So when the old king was in power, he actually bet some of the land, you know, with the war beasts. And, you know, the king lost, and the war beasts have such a big territory now, and Elkia's really tiny, and, you know, that's why no one really likes Elkia, you know, like, you guys are weak, and, like, they just had a really bad king, too. But, yeah, what I'm trying to say is Elkia's tiny, war beasts have big place, and they bet all their land. They kind of offend Steph a little bit. They talk bad about her grandpa, which, I mean, is not nice. Come on, bro, don't do that. Steph goes and cries, kind of sad, but it's fine, they make up, don't worry. Now, no one really challenges the war beasts. Like, the elf race challenged them 4 times and then gave up. Like, hadn't done it in, like, 10 years or something. And Elkia had challenged them 8 times. Now, Sora wanted to know why they challenged them 8 times. So he thought, like, maybe they won after the 8th time or something, you know? Like, or they found what they were looking for, but we'll get more into it. So we did get a cute little Sora and Shiro, like, backstory moment, along with him actually saying that he does believe in humanity now, so I thought that was pretty cute. I felt like it should be added. Another thing we learned about Steph is that her grandpa had this key. You'll see what it opens to. He has a key, and he said, like, give it to someone important to you or whatever, like, when, you know, you find someone important, give it to them. That's what I'm trying to say. So she's like, you know what, I'm gonna give them this key, like Sora and Shiro. So she ends up giving them this key, and it leads to this room where there was a, like, diary type thing from the grandpa. So this whole entire time, for, like, it's episode 7, we had thought that this king was, like, stupid. Like, you know, he wasn't doing good. He was, like, the worst king in history there. But actually, he gave away useless land those 8 times that he bet. Like, stuff they couldn't use, like metal that they did not have, like, the technology to get. You know, like, he was smart about it. And the 8th time, he actually didn't lose his memory. He made a deal that he couldn't tell people while he was alive, so he actually wrote it down in a diary so they could find out when he was dead. And he basically says that he wasn't, like, he knew he was going to be remembered as, like, idiotic, but he was setting it up for the next king so they could be, like, you know, great. And then, usually as our episodes do end with Sora's phone and, like, a little note that he has left, this one ends with a note saying, absorb the Eastern Federation, which is the War Beasts. Now, episode 8. Sorry, I'm leaning over. I'm kind of comfortable, so I'm gonna keep leaning over. So, I didn't mention this because I completely forgot about it in the last episode, but the Eastern Federation's embassy is, like, really, really close. And they ended up having, like, a construction war sometimes there, you know, where they were trying to build bigger stuff, sorry. And other stuff, you know, in the beginning of the episode, Sora ends up actually seeing the dude who's, like, standing in the embassy, and he ends up signaling him, like, hey, can I come over? And he's like, you know what, sure. A lot of stuff happened. I'm not sure if I worded any of that correct, but it's fine. So yeah, we go to the embassy, and we meet our first war beast, the guy that I was just... And we also meet the ambassador, who is the guy's grandkid. Why did I just try to think of... I was about to say grand girl. Like, is there, like, is there a thing for, like, girls? Like, is that, like, it's a girl, that's what I'm trying to say. Grand girl. She cusses a lot in the beginning, but then Sora says like, can you just say like please and thank you and stuff like that? And like after every sentence for the rest of the anime, she says like please or thank you. It's great. So then we start strategizing and challenging them to a game. Originally the bet was panties, but we're not gonna get into that. We also learned that they actually cannot read minds. They're just really good at reading situations, which I mean, I would love that. And basically they want to start some full-fledged war with them, like, you know, if we win, we take all your territory, if you win, you take all our territory. And it's really confusing at this part, so I literally left a note. I said, I got confused here about what they talk about, so I couldn't really elaborate this part well, I'm sorry, you'd have to actually watch the episode. He also talks a little bit more about the elves and why they only challenged them 4 times. It was for research, you know, and then they figured out their research, I guess, or that they couldn't win. Now, this is important for when they challenge them, for when the game happens, that you know that they challenge them to. The Warbeasts make video games. Like, never seen that in a fantasy world, honestly astonished. But, yeah, the Warbeasts make video games, which I think is pretty cool. So, as I said, they were going to challenge, like, full-fledged war, your land or our land, and they also, Elkia says that they will give their race peace. Now, during the first episode or the second episode, when he became king, they got this race piece, and it's like a little chess piece, and, you know, it's like, my camera glitched. That's Elkia's piece, you know? So it's like, people got really mad when he was like, you know, I'm gonna wager, like, the race piece. So at the end of the episode, it kind of gets a little confusing, so I'm not gonna say exactly what happened. I'm gonna say stuff that, like, we figure out in the future. Kurumi and the elf girl, her name starts with an F, I don't remember what it is, though, end up, like, showing up, and Sora plays a game with them, but, like, he kind of disappears, like, you know? Like, it was one of those moments, like, the screen got really glitchy, and then Sora was just gone. Episode 9. So, in the beginning of the episode, we get some Shiro, why does that name sound weird now? Sorry. She gives us some backstory, you know, like, as when she was a kid, and, like, when she met Sora. Also, she was a smart-ass kid. So, now, if you've seen ReZero, I know I'm mentioning ReZero again, but you know one of those, like, season 2 moments where it's like, who's Rem? Like, that's what this turns into. The camera just started falling. No one could remember who Sora was. Sora is gone. He has disappeared from reality. So everyone's like, who's Sora? Like, you know, who's Rem? So everything in this version of reality, Sora didn't do. Shiro has done. Like, you know, Shiro and Steph are lovers in this, you know, like, not lovers, but, you know, she's like, hey, you want to love me? Like, you know, instead of Sora saying that originally. And, like, everything he did, you know, she did, like that. So at first they think the Eastern Federation did it, and, like, Sora actually, like, played a game with them, and, you know, maybe their memories of him are now gone. So, what's her name? Flugel girl, I forgot her name. Yeah, that girl. She was like, hey, how about you play a game with me? We can wager this, and maybe, like, if you lose, like, maybe we can get our memories back or something. But then she has, like, this moment where she's like, wait, blank can't lose, so she doesn't end up losing. So Shiro has this moment where she's trying to, like, go back in her memory, find out, like, where Sora went, what happened, you know, like, things he said right before, like, he disappeared, like, what did they mean? So Shiro comes to the conclusion that he's trying to get an elf. As I said, you know, he was talking to Kurumi, so she is right. And that the bet was to steal each other's existence. So then we cut to Sora playing this game with Kurumi, and the elf girl standing there, too. She's there, I forgot to mention her. So he says, for the bet, that he will wager his existence and his partner, aka Shiro, and then they would have to wager their existence and then elf girl, you know? So everyone's like, wait, so did, like, Sora lose, you know, like, is his existence gone now? But Shiro's like, no, he didn't lose. I think they're still playing the game. So they find these little disc things, aka the game they were playing, and she can actually play it, you know? She just thinks about what Sora would do and goes for it. And basically the discs meant, like, stuff to you. Like, they meant stuff about your personality, your memories, whatever, so that's how they could, like, take your existence. So the discs were faith in his sister, how to win the game, and everything she is to him. Adorable, I know, right? And magically Sora is back. She won the game, great, because they never lose. And they have a little emotional reunion. It was adorable. Sorry, my camera keeps falling. Kurumi and Sora end up deciding that they're going to keep a copy of each other's memories. So, like, they'll have their own memories, but they'll also have each other's memories. And they convince Kurumi and Elf Girl to go spy for them when they have this, like, game against the Warbeasts. So now they trust each other. Adorable. I know. Kurumi is now our friend. And to end the episode, they all start bawling their eyes out. Episode 10. We start off the episode with more people protesting outside the castle. You know, sometimes Sora does seem like an idiot, so I would see that. So Kurumi, Elf Girl, and everyone else, you know, meet up and they have this little, like, introductory meeting. Jabril, that girl, you know, Flugel girl, not sure if I'm saying her name right, actually has, like, some bad blood with Elf Girl. Apparently their, like, races don't get along. So, you know, we have to, like, clear that up. So that happens, you know, they clear that up. And then we also learn more about Kurumi and Elf Girl and how they're, like, you know, how they know each other, you know, stuff like that. The Elf Girl is actually, like, one of the more important people in society in her race, I guess. And Kurumi is, like, a slave to them. So we take another bath, you know, we have another one of those moments. And we end up getting a first glance. Well, Sora and Shiro in our little group doesn't get this glance, but us as viewers gets this glance about the ambassador, you know, the War Beast people, and their priestess. So the priestess is like the kind of the lady that runs it there. So we end up seeing a little conversation between them. So after this, we go to the embassy to play the game. Now, before we play the game, Sora's like, hey, can I, like, cast a spell on you? Like, he says this to Steph. That's important, by the way, so that's why it's mentioned. And instead of just Sora and Shiro playing this time, it's like a VR game type of setup thing. So instead of them just playing, it's actually Jabril and Steph too. So it's the four of them and then Embassy Girl. And the episode kind of ends by them getting into this VR world, and it looks exactly like Japan. So Sora and Shiro start having, like, mental breakdowns. They hate this. Episode 11. So the game that they're playing is kind of like a dating sim. That's the best way I would describe it. It's not a dating sim, but it's like a dating sim. The catch, though, is you can't... The one girl that you love does not love you, but every other girl loves you. And you have to shoot them with these little they're called lovey-dovey guns or something, I don't remember. And you get their love power. Weird, I know. Ambassador Girl, she actually has a name, her name's Izuna, I think. Like, you know Asuna from, about to say Ass Class. that's Asuna. No, Asuna from, SIO, that's how I remembered her name, it's Izuna. So, another example of something that could happen in the game is Izuna could shoot Steph with the lovey-dovey gun, and then she would turn like a love slave. That happens a lot, so that's why I mentioned it. So then we have a little, like, battle moment between Shira. So then we have a little battle moment between Shiro and Izuna, I'm gonna say that girl's name wrong, with also help from Jabril. So they kind of get to the point where they're like, okay, we think Izuna is, like, cheating. Like, you know, she's, like, too good at the game. Like, you know, they're good at the game, obviously, but, like, Izuna's, like, too good at the game. She was actually cheating. The grandpa dude, that works at the embassy, he was, like, communicating to her. So Shiro was writing down a bunch of stuff on the ground, like, trying to figure out, like, what to do. And she then looks at Sora and says, like, it's up to you, I believe in you, you can do this, and gets shot by one of the, like, lovey-dovey gun bullets. So now Shiro is, like, a love slave for Izuna. So Jabril tries to go, you know, get Izuna, and while this is happening, Sora and Shiro face off. So I'm not really sure how this happened, I think I zoned out, but they ended up, like, falling off a building that they were on, Sora and Shiro, by the way. And then Izuna is there because, you know, communicating with the grandpa, so she knows everything. And Shiro and Sora actually reveal that Shiro was actually never hit by the bullet, like, it just, like, grazed something, you know, we're not gonna get into what it grazed. I'm so sorry. But yeah, so she was never actually hit, and, you know, then they get, like, their face off. The final episode, episode 12. So they end up shooting Izuna with, like, the lovey-dovey gun, but she has this ability. Like, some War Beasts have this ability, it's called Blood Destruction. Kind of cheaty, though, not gonna lie. And, you know, Izuna apparently has this ability, so she starts, like, going crazy on him. So while Izuna is, you know, being a crackhead, she ends up actually shooting the siblings. She's sitting there, she's like, oh my god, I won, like, this is great. But then none other than Steph shoots her. Steph! But actually how this worked out was, like, Steph was kind of unconscious or something, and she got shot by a bullet before from Sora or Shiro, so she was kind of like a love slave to them, and then, you know, she came up behind and, like, shot her. Now, remember that talk that I mentioned before the game? Like, you know, that little spell thing that Sora said he wanted to put on Steph? That was that she had to obey any orders written on the ground. Now, if you don't remember, as I talked about in the 11th episode, Shiro was writing stuff down on the ground. So, you know, obviously she saw that, and then, you know, she had to obey the orders. So Elkia ends up winning. Crazy as it is, they win, I know. So as I said, it was kind of like full-fledged warfare. So the wager was anything on the continent, but, you know, them being them, you know, as you would, you move all your stuff off the continent. They did that, but, you know, obviously they still get the continent. You know, they get the land. I'm not making sense. And at the end of the game, Sora and Shiro actually befriend Izuna. I know, so cute. So, you know, adorable time. And then there's another bath, but this one's important, I swear. The Shrine Princess actually shows up out of nowhere in the bathhouse, and she invites them to go to her shrine. But, you know, she's just lost everything, so she's like, you know what, I want to challenge you to a game. The game is a coin toss. I'm not kidding. They literally decide all of this from a coin toss. So if Elkia wins this coin toss, they get all the islands that, you know, the War Beasts have. And then if, I don't remember what the War Beasts were supposed to get, but I'm assuming, like, things back or whatever. The priestess has this weird thing called kinetic vision, and she uses it to try to figure out what they're gonna, like, how the coin is gonna land, and, you know, it, like, stops time or whatever, but, like, right before it hits the ground, she's like, I pick tails. So, you know, that's how it's gonna go. They have heads, she has tails. And you're not gonna believe this, it ends in a draw. I'm not kidding. Sora actually, there's, like, tiles on the ground, he moved one of them back, and it landed perfectly in the tile, like, up. So they're like, okay, do you want to, like, we both win or we both lose? Like, I'll let you decide. If we both win, how about we share the land, like Elkia and the Eastern Federation, I forgot what it was called. You guys can keep your rights, you know, whatever, and you can self-rule. But, like, you know, it'll kind of be like they're, like, joint, you know? So she ends up saying that they both win, and it becomes the Elkian Federation. So they're sitting there, you know, the episode's about to end, the season's about to be over, and they're, you know, they're wrapping up things, you know? So they're talking about how the elf race, which is currently, like, the strongest race, might declare war on them because, you know, they've obviously had some sketchy things going on. But they, like, 100%, like, believe, like, they can win, you know? Like, they're honestly pretty strong now, too. It's like, I bet they would win. So it ends off by, you know, getting into more detail about, how you could actually defeat all these races and, defeat God. The thing is, you wouldn't defeat the races. If you remember, the 10th rule, or the 10th pledge, is have fun and work together, you know? Like, be nice. So you'd be breaking a pledge if you decide to defeat all these races. So they end up, you know, revealing that you actually have to work together, and then that's how you would defeat Tet. So the last thing that happens is Kurumi and Elf Girl have a little talk. I literally zoned out. I could not tell you what they said. And the Shrine Priestess summons some shit. I don't even know. We end off on a cliffhanger is all I can say. But that's how No Game No Life ends. Literally, the Shrine Priestess, summoning shit that I don't even know. And the episode just ending. But that was No Game No Life. I'm not kidding. That's literally just how it ends. Like, you know, a lot of cliffhangers. Great. I mean, if you ignore all the inappropriate things, the storyline and, like, stuff like that is good, so I'll give it that. I don't know. I enjoyed watching it. It was kind of funny at times. It was good. I mean, I would suggest you go and watch it, you know, but, I mean, if you've watched this review, there's probably no point in watching it. But yes, I hope you guys enjoyed. Like, sort of the bell. I will try to do more of these in the future. Bye!